Welcome. Happy Friday to you. So we start where we often start, which is clarity on our intention. So we there has to be a motivation for being here. Because as I've often said, there are other things that are more entertaining. So there's something that motivates you to be here. And if you look, you'll see that what it is that motivates you to be here. Well, ultimately, if you're really sincerely looking, you'll realize that you don't know. It's actually a complete mystery. But if you're able to recognize that, then just stay there. Because that's where that's where the truth is. But in this inquiry, before we arrive at that clarity of not knowing, there's some sense that I'm here to get something. I'm here to figure something out, or to understand something, or to fix something, or to change something. So there's some sense that something needs to be changed. Something's wrong. Something's not the way that we want it to be. Something seems to be lacking. And then you can look and see that this is what is the driving force in everything that you do. So as I often tell you, it's very important, or I should say, the only way that this is of any value or useful is if you actually are looking for yourself. So you have to look and see what I'm pointing to for yourself in your own experience. So just look and see. So this should be a provocative statement. If you really look, if you really take this sincerely to heart, It's very provocative. The notion that everything that you do, everything, every single thing, everything is motivated by this same sense of deficiency or problem, everything. Could that really be? Take a look and see. See, is there any objection to that? Can you find any exception to that? So first of all, you have to look to see right now, what is motivating you, this sense that there's something that needs to be fixed, something that needs to be improved. Whatever you either you give a name to it or you don't. You don't need to give a name to it, but you might give a name to it. So here's some examples of names you might give to it. You might call it boredom. You might call it low self-esteem. You might call it being a victim. You might call it being on the wrong planet. You might call it being in the wrong circumstances, born into the wrong family. You might call it having the wrong body that doesn't agree with you, body that causes you problems. You might call it, you see any number of things. Call it by so many different names. I'm pointing this out just so you can see the enormous range of ways in which we describe it or label it or conceive of it, so that you can look and see, again, how provocative this is. What I'm saying, it should be very, very provocative. I mean, it should raise your hackles a little bit. If it's not provocative, you're not looking. You're not really taking it to heart. If you're just taking it like, oh, yes, that, okay, then you're taking it, it's passive. It's not an interactive process. It has to be interactive. It should be challenging. You should look and you should see, where are the objections? Where do you not like what's being said? Where do you think that you have the exception to what's being said? You have to look to your own experience and see, where do you make these exceptions? Where do you raise the objections? And what is the basis of that? And you have to look to see really carefully that actually it's all false. And when I say it's all false, what do I mean? I'm not saying necessarily that it can be logically disproven, although that may be true as well. But more useful than that, rather than trying to logically disprove it, just to see that the basis of all of it is assumption. Why, see, do you prefer chocolate or vanilla? You say, oh, I don't like either one. Okay, well, whatever. You like strawberry? What do you like? You like something. Why do you like that and not something else? And you say, well, that's just the way I am. Or you say, well, because I had this experience and whatever. But just take a look and see the basis of that, the basis of what you think you like and what you think you don't like, and what you think is true and what you think is not true. The basis of all of that is assumption. Nowhere is it actually written in stone, so to speak, that that is the truth. Those are all relative truths. Those are malleable. They can change. They do change. They all had a beginning and they will have an end. At the very least, when the body comes to its end, then everything associated with the body comes to an end. So we know that that's true. But see how we take these things to be absolute truths. We think they're written in stone. We think that's just, oh, that's just how life is. That's just how I am. And what I'm inviting us to do right now is to look to see, what is the basis of that? Is it actually true? Or is it just an assumption? Did it have a beginning? And was that beginning really just like a flash, something happened, and then there was it went this way and not that way. It's interesting, there have been some experiments done along the lines of, I think they in one of these experiments, they gave participants, I'm trying to remember how this went. It was something like, I can't remember how they measured it exactly. I don't remember all the details, but basically what they found in this was they gave participants like a photograph or a picture, some painting or something. And they were able to measure somehow how they felt about it prior to being given it, and then how they felt about it afterward, and how they felt about the other things that they did not receive. And turns out prior to the being given the thing, they're kind of neutral about everything. After the fact, the one that they got, that's the best one in their opinion. The ones they didn't get, no, not so good. Not so good. Not as good as the one that I got. And so you see, this is what's going on all the time. We're blind to it. We don't have to be blind to it. We allow ourselves to be blind to it, but we can regain true vision simply by observing and then telling the truth. And then telling the truth is the difficult part. Just seeing it isn't actually hard at all. All you have to do is just pause and just look. Telling the truth about it is the harder part, just because of the attachment. Because we think, no, that it really is true. It is true. I detest vanilla and I love chocolate, and that's just the truth. And you can't take that from me. I'm using a ridiculous example because then you can see perhaps that's ridiculous, but then it extends to everything. So it even extends to this most basic thing, which is where we're starting from, just this examination of the intention. Why are we here? Because if we don't see that, if we don't inquire into that, then we're getting ahead of ourselves. We actually don't need to go so far. We don't really need all of the complexities. We can stay with what's really profoundly simple, and that's actually all we need, is to see that clearly, and that undoes all of the complexities. So that's why we take the time to look here and see this most basic thing. I think something is wrong. I think there's a problem. I think something is lacking. Or you say, I don't think that at all. I've done away with that thought. I've worked hard on that, and now I no longer believe that at the level of thought, because I've affirmed a million times my life is wonderful in all ways. But then you see, and I'm only pointing this out just because I've been there, done that, and some of you will roll your eyes at that, and some of you, you'll have to secretly know that you've done that. Just admit that to yourself, and then see that you can't really lie to yourself. You have to play along, and the playing along is very painful. When you play along with the lie, it's painful. So I'm just pointing it out so that you can drop the burden. Just see that, okay, if you don't call it a thought, but you can still notice there's some sense, there's a feeling that you identify as a problem. This shouldn't be. I don't like this. I don't want this. I need something else. I have to be rid of this. I have to get something else. And then you see that motivates everything that you do in your life. Just everything, 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 from the most seemingly trivial to the most non-trivial. And again, that's provocative. So I'm asking you to look and see, where do you think that there are exceptions to that? Because I'm saying that applies to everything at all levels, big, small, short-term, long-term, most intimate and the least intimate, and all of it, every piece of everything in your life. I'm saying that is what's underpinning it. So I'm intentionally trying to provoke you. I want you to see where you think No, that can't be. I have an exception. And then look to see where you think the exception is, or look to see where it raises your hackles, where you feel uncomfortable, where you're unhappy with that, where you think, no, 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 that can't be. And then you've struck gold, because now you've gotten right to what is it that's actually going on. You see, it's so simple. It's just this, we have to come right back to the foundation, to the roots, because if we've gotten ahead of ourselves and we're dealing with all this stuff that's built off of a shaky foundation, no matter what we do with that, it's never going to work out. So we need to come right back to the very foundation and evaluate that. So look and see where you are uncomfortable with this, where it provokes anger or indignation or frustration, or where you kind of want to just zone out. Now you've really gotten to something valuable. So now you see how there's a sense that there's something that's not right. And this is, if you really look sincerely, you'll see this motivates everything. And even if that it provokes some kind of discomfort in you, then take heart, because what that indicates is there exactly right there. You've come right to what it is that's going on. You see, this is the thing that's driving you. You want to avoid this so badly. And I say you, not to say shame on you, but we're all in this together. I'm just pointing it out. I'm just describing and indicating what's going on so that you can see it for yourself, because this is to discover where you have, at a fundamental level, disconnected from the only authentic power that exists, which is your own self. And how have you done that? Because you've said, this is too uncomfortable, I won't do this. And then you're off trying to build a stable, comfortable structure on a completely unstable foundation. Unstable because it's cut off from fundamental reality. It's based upon a lie and an avoidance. So just see that. Now, here's the really good news, is that when you see this, actually, this is all that's needed. Well, let me qualify that. Okay, this is all that's needed, plus the willingness to continue to relentlessly see. Now, if you give yourself fully to the seeing, then notice that implicit in that, and you might not have noticed this unless I point it out, which is why I'm pointing it out. If you really give yourself fully to the seeing, fully to the inquiry, fully to the actual truth telling about this at a very deep level, you become completely absorbed in that. There's no room for anything else. And what is, if you look at what this actually is, this is surrender. Okay, so we'll examine that a little bit together so that this can be clear. But this is the only thing that's needed. It's the only thing. That and patience and time. Because, and that patience and time are illusory, but I've thrown those in there only because this tendency we have to be very impatient and pop ourselves back out of timelessness into time. So here we are. If we give ourselves fully to this inquiry now, just look to see right now, whatever it is that's going on where you feel uncomfortable, you feel like, oh, I just can't figure it out. I just can't get to okay. I just can't quite get there. I can't seem to shake this badness, wrongness. It's a sense of like, I mean, everybody has a different conditioning, so you'll perceive it slightly differently. But you see, it's that whatever that is that bothers you, sense that I'm not clean enough, I'm not worthy, there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with life, whatever it is. You see that, see how that's there all the time and that's driving everything, and you're constantly reacting to that, avoiding it, scheming. What am I going to do next? How am I going to outsmart this, outrun it? So if you give yourself fully to the actually investigating this, and when I say investigating, I don't mean thinking about it, but just seeing, just relentlessly seeing fully. And implicit in that is also telling the truth about it. The pure seeing, just, it's like, here it is, all completely bare. There's nothing hidden. There's no way to spin this. It's just what it is. So here it is. You're completely giving yourself to this, just seeing exactly as it is. And then notice that as you are doing this, because of habit, there's this tendency to want to pop back into, okay, but is it better yet? See, because we still think this is a strategy. You see what I said? Why are you here? And this reveals it, because you see how you're still trying to get something that you can use as a strategy to fix the problem. Even when we're looking and you start to see, all we're doing is just looking at what is the problem, and you just look to start to see, well, what is the problem? Oh yeah, uncomfortable, don't like it, want to avoid it so badly. And then you see how the mind will say, okay, did it work yet? Am I free of it yet? Did it go away? Is it better? Is it improved? Am I enlightened yet? So that's the tendency, is that that's the impatience that I'm talking about. We want to pop from timelessness. Notice how in this moment right now, when you give yourself fully in this moment, just fully give yourself to this noticing of this primal discomfort, this avoidance. And notice that if you really give yourself to it, you have to be willing to, and this is why I say it's the same as surrender. You have to be willing to give up everything that you think you know, all of the labels and thoughts about it instantly as they arise, because they do arise. But in this very instant, when you say, is it frustration? Is it disappointment? Is it because of my childhood? Is this a past life issue? Is it because I'm bad? Have I disappointed God? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? You know, you see how you just keep trying to figure it out. What is this? What is this? Why is it? What is it? Why is it? How is it? What is it? Why is it? How is it? Round and round. You fine. See, we're not here trying to get rid of that. Well, we think we are. But I'm saying we're not actually, because that is the only problem, is that we think that that's what we're trying to do. But you give yourself fully to this now, and you notice all of the discomfort, all of the compulsions, all of the impulses, all of the strategies, all of the labels, all of the thoughts, all of the everything, and you just notice it. But you know, here's the thing, because you're noticing, because you're observing, because you're giving yourself fully to that, there's no grasping at any of that, because it's so spontaneous. What's happening now has to be fully, you have to give yourself fully to this. So what was happening just half a second ago, it's gone now. You can't be doing anything with that. You have to give yourself fully to this, all fully to this unknown primal experience. And you see how you're completely absorbed if you allow yourself. So there is a timelessness to this, because why? Time, you see, time is generated. You're watching, you're witness to this right now. If you're really just observing in your own experience, you're witness to the generation of time. So time you're not bound by time. Time is generated within your consciousness. You can observe it right now, and you see that it only is none other than the grasping at something, and then it's like the sense of how long you've been grasping at it. But if you give yourself again fully to this present inquiry, just to observe your direct experience now, you notice there's no time can be generated, because nothing's being grasped. You're just with this, as this, observing this now, 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 now. So you see, there's no time. This is absolutely timeless. And then, but the tendency, because there's this compulsion to grasp, to cling, to understand, to refer to something, to compare. This is good? Well, I don't know. What was that? Oh, that was bad. I guess this is good. Oh, wait, I'm not so sure. What was that? That was bad. Well, maybe that was, I don't know. See, you're grasping, clinging, comparing. Now, all of a sudden, this tension is there. Now there's a sense of time. So this is what's going on, is we pop out of timelessness into this time through our effort, compulsive, largely unconscious. But as you just continue to watch, you become conscious of it. So understand, this is training. This is practice. So if at first you think, I have no idea what's going on, I don't think I can do this, this is very confusing, that's fine. That's like anything. The first time somebody tried to teach you anything, you didn't have any idea. If it was truly new, you couldn't have had any idea. You didn't know. You know, somebody said, today we're going to learn about geometry. What is that? And you have no idea. What on earth is that? You don't even know the word. So it's perfectly fine if you say, I'm very confused. That's totally fine. It's like the only way that you can actually learn something is by doing, so to speak. So this is an immersion. It's like immersion. It's an immersion program. You're fully immersed, and now you're just becoming familiar. So again, just notice if you can, and maybe some of you've given up at this point because you realize how miserable and awful and strenuous it is. And if that's true for you, that's fine. You don't need to try anymore. But if you can, see if you can give your attention to and notice this problem again. The discomfort, this why you're here, what you're trying to get, what you're trying to solve, how you're trying to fix something or understand something or get somewhere or something, whatever that is. And just notice how slippery it is and how uncomfortable it is and how strenuous it is. And just keep observing and notice that if you stop trying to grasp it, if you stop trying to avoid it, if you stop trying to understand it, if you stop trying to have a relationship with it, then just notice for this one moment, and maybe it depends on how skilled and familiar you are in this process, how long you can just simply rest here. So for some people at first, it's only just a second. And that's fine. That's enough. That's a good starting point. Some of you, you'll find, wow, finally I can just rest. What a relief. Okay, then just rest. And then maybe you find you can just rest for 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 30 seconds, maybe for 60 seconds, maybe for 10 minutes. But whatever it is, the duration isn't so important. It's the recognition. So just notice and recognize that in this one moment of rest, which I've also pointed out is the same as surrender. Because you're not grasping at anything. So it's not about getting rid of anything. It's just not grasping. It's allowing, surrendering, observing, not to get anything, to get anywhere, to get rid of anything, to understand anything, or anything of the sort, just for its own sake, just this rest. Then you just notice how profoundly restful it is. What a great relief. So I'm going to describe some things, to point them out to you, and you just look to your own experience to see what I'm pointing out. Okay. So again, it's interactive. It has to be interactive, but we've taken these steps, guided exploration, to lead you to this recognition of this rest, this possibility of rest, the choice of rest even. And it can be chosen again and again. So don't try to hold on to it. That's also an important point. Because if you're trying, then you just fall back in the same trap. So you just have to be very gentle, and you just allow, surrender, and you'll just notice, oh, there's that rest. I'm not having to do anything. Oh, by the way, another possibility, just to point it out, is that you may actually perceive that you go to sleep. So if you're let's say very unfamiliar or very new to this inquiry, or if you're just, maybe your nervous system is kind of weak at the moment for whatever reason. So there's no judgment, understand. It's not better or worse, but it's just a possibility, just so you can understand. Then you may experience it as a kind of falling asleep, or like you've zoned out or blank, something like that. So just notice that too. That's another possibility. And that can just be noticed. And then you see in that instant of that sleep or blankness or zoning out, notice that, what a profound rest that is. See, there's a complete, in that instant, whatever you call it, however you understand it, whatever you perceive about it, in this one instant, notice this is the deepest rest. There's a complete rest. Even the basis of the sense of being someone vanishes. See, isn't that a tremendous relief, not to have to hold that together? Even just see how much work is going on behind the scenes unconsciously so much of the time, trying to hold together something, this idea of this person. And in this one instant, in this inquiry, when you give yourself fully to it, just fully surrendered for one instant, what a relief. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to hold anything together. Okay, so don't try and sustain that or hold on to that or strain in any way, but rather just keep as it's comfortable for you, and not in any way that's not comfortable for you. Just continue to allow, just to have this glimpse, however, whether it's for 1 second or 5 seconds or 10 seconds or however long, it doesn't matter, but just at your own rhythm, at your own pace, in a way that's totally comfortable for you. Just experiment with just allowing, surrendering, just giving yourself fully to the inquiry in this very open way. You might also understand it as a letting go. However you understand it, it doesn't matter. But you just continue at a comfortable pace just to return to that. And then notice as you do, here I'll describe some things, okay? And just look to see how this is true in your own experience, that everything that occurs, so every appearance, every thought, now I'm talking about from this stillness or this blankness or this silence or this profound rest, okay, not from the mind, but from this profound rest, from this, we'll say, perspective. Notice how everything that seems to appear is equally unimportant, equally can be, or we could say equally important, but I'd prefer for now to call it equally unimportant, in the sense that it doesn't need to be, you don't need to do anything with it. So that you can just continue to just allow them just to, if something arises or appears, a thought, a feeling, a sensation, an image, whatever, you just, there it is. And you just allow, just let it be. See how it's like being supremely lazy. I don't know if you've ever had that experience of having a very like a nap, a daytime nap, where you're just so you're not quite all the way asleep, but you're very, very, very profoundly rested and kind of in between wakefulness and sleep, and the amount of effort needed to grasp at anything or give form to anything is too much. So lazy, and it's so blissful. So that's available right now. You see, just notice that. Whatever comes, whatever doesn't come, also, it's totally fine. Just allow that profound laziness and notice the bliss of that, the joy of that. It's like this. It is the supreme bliss. It is beyond any kind of worldly experience that we would call bliss. It's this total surrender, totally non-attached, not caring in the least, but very open and allowing. So now, and also notice that, and this, some of you will be able to see and some may not be able to see, so that's okay, but I'll point it out anyway, because if you can see it, it's very powerful that the that everything that arises or appears is coming out of the same silence, the same stillness that is your own self. So just notice, who are you? You know that you are, and there's nothing to be grasped. You are this very same silence, very same bliss, this very same infinite awareness. And notice that everything is coming out of this. It appears out of this silence. So you just can notice that, and then you notice, where does it go? So it's almost like watching the sky and there are cloud formations that are appearing and disappearing. It's all one sky. So notice that now, if you're able to see that, you can see that whatever it is that seems to be appearing, like these cloud formations, that there's nothing intrinsic in the formation that there's no meaning intrinsic in that formation. It's just something happening. So you can understand, you can look to your own experience and see how this is occurring now. You can also understand it in terms of the metaphor of the sky with the clouds. So this cloud formation, there it is. Is there actually you say, oh, look, there's an elephant. Is there really an elephant there? No. So it's a projection from the self, right? So as there's this appearance, you notice how in your own experience right now, if you're able to observe it, you can see that there's this projection of the meaning onto it. So you're actually witness to the process of creation right now. And when you are aware of this, you have everything you need to reverse engineer it. So you can start to identify exactly how it is that you create the problems. So there's just some appearance, and then there's a projection of meaning onto it. If you just stay with the very subtle, the most subtle possible, which is what this inquiry is leading. The inquiry leads from the gross level to the subtle, and then to the formless. So we're just like at this interface between, and this is just language, but right now I'm pointing for you to explore this interface between the formless and the most subtle dimension of form, of appearance. And you notice how there's this kind of projection that gives meaning here. Now, the reason I'm pointing this out, it's not just for intellectual curiosity, it's because it has very practical implications. You look how this is occurring. Remember how I said everything that you do is motivated by this sense that there's something wrong. Now, where is that sense? It's very close in. And we're looking now at the subtlest, if you're following along, the subtlest aspect of that, the subtlest aspect, something's wrong. So and remember I said, it's just an assumption. So what is it that gives this meaning? What is it that projects that particular form with that particular function, that particular thing? What is it that gives shape to this experience that says, this is no good. I don't like this. This is a problem. And what I'm pointing to is you can see that in your own experience. It's only here at this very subtle level, this very, very subtle impression. And that's just, as I said, at some moment, it went this way and it didn't go that way. It's differentiation. So formless, undifferentiated, which is, you can observe right now if you're able to do so at least. Just notice it's always here. It's formless awareness. Does awareness have form? Clearly not. Are you aware? Yes, obviously. So you are formless awareness. Out of this formless awareness, everything appears. Now, everything that's appearing, you have a sense of relationship to it. Notice in this moment that I've pointed out that you can repeatedly observe, where there's a release, a surrender, and there's just this complete absorption into this stillness, this unmanifest, pure awareness. You notice there's no problem. There can't be a problem in this one moment. But then what happens is you're witness again and again and again and again and again to creation. Creation happening. And because we have been in the habit of just leaping over the subtlety, and we just go right to the gross level, where we're certain that there is a problem, and what do I do about it, and what do I call it, and how do I fix it, and what happened yesterday, and what am I going to do tomorrow, and all the rest of it. We overlook this, all of this subtlety, where the only place that there's any real possibility of anything changing, and it comes out of awareness, not because of some use of force. So we have to let ourselves come back to the most subtle. We recognize, okay, here I am, formless awareness, completely unmanifest, no definition, no problem, pure potential bliss, not experienced bliss, but pure potential bliss. Now in this most, if we just slow it down and observe this most subtle movement of creation, you see that what is it? There's just this projection that it starts to differentiate. Clearly, we recognize I am undifferentiated, but then here I'm perceiving differentiation. Well, at the subtlest level, it begins to differentiate. It goes this way and not that way. And this is the root. This is the foundation. If it goes this way, whatever follows will be based upon that foundation. If this is all about the problem, something's wrong, I'm unhappy, I need to fix something, I don't feel secure, I'm not okay, nothing ever works out for me, whatever. You see, what are you going to do? How are you going to dress that up? How are you going to fix that? Because everything that you do based upon this only reinforces this. So we're bringing the attention here to be able to see where it is that we actually have leverage. And it's not, as I say, it's not through the use of force, it's through the power of awareness. So it's through the seeing of it. And then there's a retraining, but not through seeing, not through force, but rather through this awakening of the intelligence just to perceive clearly what's happening at a subtle level. You need to see Here, at this subtle level, here's where it starts to differentiate in this way. And this is all about, there's a problem. That's the fundamental assumption. There's a problem. Something's not right. And notice how you feel that, how you know that that's the case. There's a contraction. There's an armoring. There's a condensation, a solidification of this shell, me against the universe. How am I going to get what I need? So just keep seeing it. Just see that no matter what you do, it all is based on that. Everything is based on that. It's not shame on you. This is why I said telling the truth is the hard part. You have to be willing to just see it and just tell the truth. Yes, that's true. Yes, I can't seem to get around that. Everything that I do, everything is based upon this. I'm always trying to fix it. I'm always trying to solve it. Everything is about that. Everything. There's no way around that. So now just keep coming back and just see it. The more you see it, the more you recognize how painful it is. And what is the basis of this? Is it absolutely true? Do you know that it is absolutely true? Do you know for sure that there is a problem? Now, please understand, if you leap out here to the gross level, of course you're going to insist there's a problem. Remember what we've just looked at. Everything that you do, everything is based upon this primal assumption that there is a problem. So if you're way out here, everything that you see is going to reinforce that there's a problem. No way around that. So if you're at the level of thought and you're referring to yesterday and the day before that and your childhood and anything that you think or anything that you perceive, of course, it's all going to be confirmation that there is a problem. But that's why I'm over and over and over, I'm saying, come back. Come to the most subtle, and then prior to that, and just notice, okay, here I am in this one moment. I don't know, in this one moment, what a relief, what a profound rest, what a profound freedom is found here, just in this one instant. Forget about everything else, just one moment here. And then just slow it down and just notice, okay, every time I try to do anything, anytime I try to think anything, anytime I try to figure anything out, anytime I try and solve anything, of course, there's a problem. It's all based on this primal assumption. Something's not right. I've got to do something. Just keep seeing that. And then notice here, you're aware of yourself. You're aware of yourself as awareness. You're aware of yourself as this pure, unbounded freedom, pure consciousness. You're aware of yourself in this way. And notice this, which you are aware of, has no problem. No, not even a concept of a problem. There's no possibility of a problem. There's no second. There's no relationship of any kind. There's no possibility of a problem. Can't even make sense. So this, if you're sincerely looking, just for one instant, I'm not saying you sustain it. Please understand, this is not something you have to try and sustain. I'm just saying in this one moment, you can glimpse and recognize for just this one moment, yes, it's absolutely true. I am completely free. There is no problem in this one instant. So then you can see how this notion of a problem, the generation of the problem, the assumption of the problem is not inherent to you. It's something that you are projecting. So this is very good news. You just keep coming back to this and seeing over and over and over as many times as is necessary. And every time that you see, that habit is dissolved, because the habit is based on very quick movement. It's like a leaping over the assumption. That's how that continues. That habit continues because it's fast. When we slow it down and observe, the habit is weakened. The habit dissolves. That habit begins to be replaced by this habit of perception, slowed down perception, observation. Now, as you're observing slowly, you see, yes, it's just an assumption. There's nothing underneath the assumption that there's no absolute basis for it. So you keep seeing that over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And then this is what I want to point out. 2 minutes left. Is that this direct knowledge, now you can begin to, this direct knowledge begins to cultivate faith, if you allow it. And that faith provides you with a new pathway. But it's only, that pathway only becomes strong if you choose it. So what does that mean? Now, you've probably heard me say this before, but now maybe it will make sense why I say it. That everything that happens, and the language maybe could be cleaned up or improved somehow, but I'll just use the same language. Everything that happens is for good. Everything that happens is for good. Everything. Now, at this gross level, that's not really true and not very practical, because without this direct knowledge, without the direct recognition of what that's pointing to. But when you start to have this direct recognition of what it's pointing to, now it becomes useful, because it's a reminder it's like a little reminder. It's just a little, it's like, people they have alarms on their devices that go off to remind them to breathe or something. It's like that. It's just a little reminder, and that reminder, it's like it starts to get programmed, so that automatically, when that occurs, it's causing you to notice yourself as you are, pure awareness, and then to slow down and observe. And this starts to form this new pathway, which strengthens that faith, which strengthens this broader perspective, inclusive perspective, healing perspective, the perspective that is showing that everything that happens truly is for good. I mean, I say the language can be improved, but in good in the sense that what is my true desire? My true desire is to fully realize the freedom that I am at all levels, to be fully awake, regardless of what is appearing, to know who I am, to know the truth of life, to know the truth of freedom, always. So then, in that light, everything that happens is actually revealing to me where it is that I've been, where there's conditioning, identification, programming that says there's a problem. And so it's just a reminder. Everything that happens, every single thing, everything is a reminder to inquire in this direct way, to just notice I am this unmanifest pure consciousness. Not the words, but the actuality of what that's pointing to. Just simply to notice that, and then to notice I am already free. I am so free, I can just rest in this supreme laziness and just allow these impressions to be dissolved. I don't need to fear anything. Whatever it is that's appearing, it's not something, see, I'm not affected by that. That cannot harm me. It's only a revelation presently of what it is that I've been believing so that I can see it and dissolve it. How do I dissolve it? Not by force, but by recognizing what is subtler. By recognizing what is subtler and resting here, then the false is seen as false. I'm not harmed by that. And so then more and more of this path of the manifestation, the expression of that freedom grows. See, it's one thing, and very, very important, foundational and wonderful to know this absolute freedom. But then if we keep making these, if we keep just leaping into this manifest world in an unconscious way, leaping over the assumptions, all we're doing is reinforcing these painful identifications. And so we're not realizing that freedom at all levels. What I'm proposing is, of course, realizing that freedom at all levels is not necessary. That freedom is already always the case, whether it's realized or not. So please understand that. But what I am saying is that when we talk about liberation is not for the truth of who you are, that absolute freedom, because it's already absolutely free. It can't be other than that. You already are that. That's the essence of who you are. So liberation is not for that. Liberation is not for the truth of who you are. How can freedom be liberated? Liberated from what? The liberation is this, the liberation is the expression of that freedom at all levels. And that's a possibility. And that's what we're exploring here. But it has as its basis the recognition that I am already that. Then we repeat that inquiry over and over and over, and we use everything. I mean, no exception. Every single thing that happens as a reminder for the ongoing inquiry. And through that, what happens is this new pathway is opened and strengthened so that now this light shines into the manifest and in a new way. You know, it's always been shining through into the manifest. It's just that it was going this way, which is the way of built on the assumption that there is a problem. I am separate. There is a problem. I am vulnerable. I am not unsafe. Everything's based on that. So that was just a habit. Now we're through awareness, we're choosing to dissolve that. This is more pleasing, more in alignment with what is actually true. That was an interesting expression, an interesting game to play, but not so much anymore. So now this can be expressed. So that's it. Easy peasy. So for those who are here live, we can stay on for the Q&A, and I'll end this recording and switch it over for that.